It's recording. Hello, I'm Phoebe Boucher, managing editor at Raven Chronicles Press. Raven is a Northwest literary organization that's been around since 1991. This is a years-long series, Raven Chronicles Banned Books Project. Raven will be posting on our YouTube channel episodes of writers reading excerpts from banned books that are meaningful to them or are of historical or literary importance. Today we have Banned Books episode number 8 with Zan Agzigian. Zan is a poet, story writer, playwright, and arts advocate. She worked in collaboration with Bitterroot Salish poet Victor A. Charlo, co-writing native plays for nearly 20 years. Stamen and Whirlwind, Zan's first book of poetry, was published in 2008 by Gribble Press. She is currently working on her second collection of poetry. She has an MFA in fiction from Eastern Washington University and lives in Vinegar Flats, Spokane, Washington. I visited that house and that area. It's really an interesting area of Spokane. She produces and hosts a weekly 2-hour music mix show, Sound Space, with Zan for NPR affiliate Spokane Public Radio, and hosts regular poetry readings in her garage, Itzy's Place. Zan, take it away.
Well, hello, Phoebe, and hello, all listeners. It feels a little bit like a little homecoming to be part of the group with Raven Chronicles. I done readings and poetry in Seattle in the late 80s and early 90s. So I'm really honored to share this space with everybody. I've been listening to some of the other readings and they're fantastic. Don't miss them. I want to first off add a little art to our presentation. This is by Susan Weber. She's a Spokane artist, and it's all knives out on protecting our wombs and our sexual reproductive organs, and asking the government to stay out of our bedrooms and stay out of our bodies. I wanted to start with that message because I feel that a project like this and an experience like this is an act. It's an act of protest. And I am here honoring the act of protest that we have the rights to, as well as we should really have the rights to pick up any book we really want to and read it. And what's interesting is I have chosen Judy Blume, and it's her book Forever. And of course, I read Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. She published that in 1970. And she very quickly, she had delivered 3 of the books to her children's school. And the principal decided to not take them at all, so turned them away. And then that night she got a call, an anonymous call from someone, and said, "Are you the one who wrote that book?" And they called her a communist and hung up the phone.
Okay.
This is 1970. So you can imagine, look at all of the unrest and the civil protest, all of what was happening at that time in our culture. And when we look at now, yes, there's a lot happening now too, but it's in a different, similar way. We had all of this rebelliousness, this, protesting, the people speaking their minds, voicing, starting to just really speak up and voice out about Vietnam and about our sexual freedoms and our abilities to take care of our own bodies, the pill, you name it. So, with the stretch of time, of course, Judy Blume, she put an intro to this book. And of course, the intro really basically it's not a warning, it's advice. It really speaks to the fact that you're just not using birth control to not get pregnant. hopefully, but you're also utilizing methods of protection from STIs and from HIV, AIDS, from our infectious diseases that have come out of the woodwork since then. So it's real smart. It's that she had put that in there. I think that Judy is like 87 years old now. This novel came out in 75. She said that being banned was a very emotional experience, but it didn't deter her and keep her from continuing to write. I think it's a really good point. And I think it's also really, quick to say and important to say, why was this book banned? It's a young adult book. So, ages 12 to 18, Phoebe, do you think, is that about
Yeah, yeah,
the span, the age span?
yeah.
Yeah. And, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which spoke to like a 12-year-old, but between 9 and 12 is what Judy was thinking for that book. But this one, and the main character in the book, in this book, Catherine, she's just about to turn 18. She has like 2 weeks and she'll turn 18. So the book begins with her being a late 17-year-old. But two words as to why this book was banned. And one of them was there's teen sex, and it addresses that. And the other is birth control and the ability to obtain it or to use it or to actually even be informed about it and to have knowledge. I read this book very quickly. You know, you can read it in one sitting, some of these books. I just feel hopeful that a project like this encourages you to just go out and start grabbing up as many banned books as you can and read them and figure out for yourself why they're banned, or to think it. It'll blow your mind. It's going to blow your mind. It blows my mind that this book is banned. I can't believe it. Judy says that fear is one of the reasons. She's got a really great website, but she's actually got a section on about censorship. It's fantastic. I really encourage you to take a look at it because it's really cool. A lot of these people that have been banned, you can't read, you can't hear what they wrote about being banned. You know what I mean? And then as they've evolved in their culture or in their worlds, we don't have that from them as to what that was alike and what it was about. And
I'll put
Judy,
that link. I'll put
what's
her
that?
link. I'll put the link in
Oh,
the
good.
explanation on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, please do.
Yeah,
Thanks, Phoebe.
yeah.
Yeah, she even put together, I didn't even know this. She put together a book. She pulled together a bunch of prominent authors whose writing has been censored, and she challenged them to contribute an original story to a collection that would benefit the National Coalition Against Censorship.
Mm.
And she said she was overwhelmed with the response, and the book's called Places I Never Meant to Be. So
Uh,
I wanted to do a shout out to that because that's a
okay.
really, really refreshing project. And I'm sure it was something that people picked up with a whole bunch of zeal, you know.
Yeah.
And so she really, really took this experience of being censored and has really put a lot of energy into anti-censorship type
Great.
projects and publications and things. And she does. I wanted to read what she says about this fear piece. I believe that censorship grows out of fear, and because fear is contagious, some parents are easily swayed. Book banning satisfies their need to feel in control of their children's lives. This fear is often disguised as moral outrage. Boy, we don't know too much about that, huh? They want to believe that if their children don't read about it, their children won't know about it. And if they don't know about it, it won't happen.
Yeah,
Wow, huh?
yeah.
Yeah. today it's not only language and sexuality, the usual reasons given for banning her books, but will land a book on the censors hit, and that will land a book on a censors hit list. It's Satanism, New Ageism, and all these other isms, some of which will make you laugh if the implications weren't so serious.
Yeah.
Books that make kids laugh often come under suspicion. So do books that encourage kids to think or question authority. Books that don't hit the reader over the head with moral lessons are considered dangerous.
Yeah.
I thought that was so fascinating.
Yeah,
And then
that's
she
great.
goes, yeah, really. And then she goes into uh, uh, she said she just has heard from so many young people, right? And you can only imagine. I mean, I didn't reach out to her as an author and write to her, but I was surely looking for some insights and advice and whatnot about sexuality when I was young. I was raised Catholic.
Mhm.
I was not raised in an incredibly strict religious family, but I went to Catholic school and whatnot. In high school, we did get sex education. Yes, we did. And
Yeah.
I remember the films, you
So did
know.
I.
And
Yeah.
what they did was they talked about your reproductive organs and
Right.
then the reproductive organs of the other. And then, of course, like that's about it. Like they kept it
Yeah.
at that place of you fill in the blanks or whatever, whatever. But they didn't have a question and answer period. That's for sure. They were
That's
smart enough to not do that. Like a
yeah.
town hall meeting on sexuality and sexual identity. I think that our sexual experiences obviously play a huge factor into our sexual identity. You
Right.
know, what defines us, our experiences.
Right.
And so when and if you have had, you look at your first sexual experience, for some people it's an absolute horror. It's a horror story.
Hmm.
And in this book, what it does is it surrounds the idea of sex and having it with those who really inspire and influence you in life. You know, you're a young person, you've got a lot of adults around you who are
Right.
playing a role, putting a little bit in here and there. In this book, you've got parents who aren't really afraid to speak to their daughter, but they don't give details. They leave it very, very open. But then she has a grandparent, she has a grandmother who is pretty liberal in her thinking. And reason why I say that before I start reading here is because, you know, not everybody has that support system. And I think in this book, it actually gave a scenario where she really is getting some information. I think the least you're informed and the less knowledge you have of sex, the more dangerous it can become to you, as well as kind of scary, you know? And so if you don't feed that, you know, that the fear in a positive, reassuring way, then all kinds of things can happen and you can end up in places that you never want to be. And I think that's one of the reasons why she wrote this book, was to say, look, you know, this is a common experience for all of us, whether we're, you know, men or women, and whether, you know, it hadn't even really gotten into to the point where, you know, how you gender identify. So this obviously is heterosexual, but nowadays, because of that intro, like sex is sex, you know, there's all kinds of things that we need to pay attention to when or if we have it, and how it becomes about. I'm going to read chapter 14 and 15. And the reasons why I'm staying out of the sex scenes, they're just obvious. It's an obvious thing. But I think that these two chapters are very revealing. And I'm just going to read them to let you feel that. So we've got some characters here that show up. Erica is, well, Catherine is the young adult, and she'll be turning 18 at some point. And then she has a grandmother, she has a mom, she has a dad. You don't have to know their names. Erica is her really good friend, and Erica's the one that's real kind of a little more animated and promiscuous in that way. You may not know necessarily how real promiscuous she really is or if it's a lot of talk. But then again, there's an interesting dynamic about sex and having it too. So it depends. A lot of people don't talk about it and don't want to. It's a real taboo subject. But here we are. I'm going to read chapter 14 out of Judy Blume's Forever. There's no school on Friday, Erica said. We were in the locker room changing into our gym suits. I know, some kind of special teachers meeting. So, you want to see a preview of the new Robert Redford picture? Are you kidding? I'd love to. Well, we're taking the 8:45 train. Oh, I'll meet you at the station. No, we can pick you up, say around 8:30. Great, said Catherine, and tell your mother thanks for asking me. When I get home from school, I found a small package in the mail from my grandmother. As I ripped it open, I wondered if it could be a birthday present 2 weeks early. As soon as I saw what was inside, I knew it wasn't. First, I read the note. Dear Kath, I hear that you and Michael are officially going together. Michael's the boyfriend. Thought these might come in handy, and remember, if you ever need to talk, I'm available. I don't judge, I just advise. Love, Grandma. I pulled out a whole bunch of pamphlets from Planned Parenthood on birth control, abortion, and venereal disease. At first, I was angry. Grandma's jumping to conclusions again, I thought. But then I sat down and started to read. It turned out she had sent me a lot of valuable information. Could my mother have put her up to it? I went to the phone and dialed my grandmother's office. Gross, gross, gross. Good afternoon. Hallie Gross, please, I said. Who's calling? Catherine Danziger. One moment. Kath? It was Grandma. Hi, I said. I got the stuff you sent. That was fast. I just mailed it yesterday. It was here when I got home from school. You're not angry, are you? Grandma asked. Me? Why should I be angry? Well, you shouldn't be, but sometimes you jump to conclusions. Me jump to conclusions?
Mhm.
You. Look, I'm glad you sent that stuff. It's very interesting. Not personally or anything, but in general. I'm glad you think so. Do me a favor, though. Don't tell your mother or father. Why not? Sometimes it's hard for parents to accept the facts. So let's keep it between the two of us, okay? Sure, okay. I'm coming into New York on Friday. Maybe I could meet you and Grandpa for lunch. Oh, we'd love it. I'll make a reservation at Basil's, 12:30. Fine. See you then. Right. Bye. That night I got into bed early and read all the pamphlets. When I'd finished, I thought, well, I can start a service in school. I know so much, which might not be a bad idea considering there's a girl in my gym class who, until this year, never knew that intercourse was how you got pregnant, and she'd already done it. The next morning during study hall, I went to the phone booth near the office and called Planned Parenthood of New York City. The phone rang 3 times before anyone answered. Either it was very hot in the booth or I was nervous because all of a sudden I was sweating like crazy. Hello, can I help you? Yes, I said. I'd like some information about birth control. That is about getting it. One moment, please. She connected me with someone else. You wish to make an appointment? I guess so. May I ask your age? Does it matter? No, we don't require parental permission. But if you're a teenager, we have special sessions. Oh, I'll be 18 in 2 weeks. Then you could come to this Thursday at 4 o'clock. I was hoping I could get an appointment for Friday. You see, I live in New Jersey and I'll be in the city then. Oh, hold on a minute, please. I heard a click. After a few seconds, she came back on the line. Friday afternoon will be fine. Oh, that's great. Your name, please? Catherine Danziger. Would you spell that last name? Danziger. Very good. Come to the Martin Sanger Clinic at 22nd Street and 2nd Avenue at 3 o'clock. Okay, thank you. I'll be there. On Friday morning, my father asked me if I needed money for my day in New York. I've got some saved up, I told him. Then use this for the train, he said, handing me a 5. Thanks, Dad. Have a nice day. Going to a private screening with Juliet Small is a lot different than just going to the movies. This was the third time she'd invited me to join her. I like Mrs. Small. She acts like a regular person. You would never know she's famous. There were about 25 other people at the screening beside us and Erica. She said most of them were reviewers like her mother. After the picture, Mrs. Small asked me personally what I thought of it. Well, I told her I just love Robert Redford. Don't we all, Mrs. Small said, but I mean about the story. Oh, the story? Oh, I liked it, but I don't think it could happen that way in real life. Exactly, she said, but you wanted it to, didn't you? You were hoping it would turn out just that way. Yes, I told her. You see, that's the whole point. Oh, it's going to be a smash, Erica said. In spite of my review, you mean? In spite of anybody's review. I agree with you completely, Mrs. Small said. She got into her coat. Well, that wraps it up. I'm yours for the rest of the day. Where shall we begin? The Guggenheim? Whitney? How about lunch? Erica said. You're hungry already? Famished. Then lunch it is. Kath, want to join us? No, thanks. But I'm meeting my grandparents. Oh, of course, that's right. Erica told me. How are they? Just fine. Good. Send them my love, will you? I will. Thanks for the show. I enjoyed it. Outside, I grabbed a cab and gave the driver the address of Basil's. It's my grandparents' favorite restaurant, a small East Side place where Basil, the owner, will fix special dishes for his regular customers, like Grandpa, who's on a low sodium diet. They were waiting in a booth in the back where they liked to sit. Grandpa looked pale. I kissed him on the cheek, then hugged Grandma. She was wearing a big yellow felt hat. Hey, I like that. It hides my hair, she said. Whenever I need a shampoo, I wear it. Basil took our order himself, and when I asked him about the special of the day, chicken Kiev, he whipped out his pencil and drew a picture of it right on the tablecloth, explaining how it's prepared. After that, I felt I had to order it. So, Grandma said, when Basil had finished with us, let me get a good look at you. She narrowed her eyes and inspected me. I tried to keep a straight face. Finally, she said, wonderful, glowing. Oh, Grandma, people don't really glow. That's such a silly expression. What do you mean people don't really glow? Of course they do. Don't be embarrassed. It's very becoming. She looked across the table at Grandma. Doesn't she glow, Ivan? To me, Catherine always glows, Grandpa said slowly. It must be love, Grandma said. I could tell I was blushing, even though I didn't want to. Grandpa raised his water glass. To love, he said. Grandma clinked her glass against his. To love. After dessert, Grandma and I went to the ladies' room. I thought about telling her that I had the 3 o'clock appointment at the Margaret Sanger Clinic. I knew she'd be pleased, but I decided against it because I wanted it to be my own experience, one I don't have to share with anyone except Michael. We said goodbye to Basil and went outside. It had turned very warm, like a beautiful spring day. Phew, Grandma said, unbuttoning her coat. I'm going back to the office for an hour. I have some work to finish. I checked my watch. Well, I guess I'll be taking off now. I have shopping to do. I kissed them both goodbye. Thanks for the lunch. Grandpa hugged me extra hard. I watched as Grandma helped him into the cab. Then I started walking. There's something about walking in New York that appeals to me, especially on a bright, sunny day. I took off my jacket and hung it over my arm. I felt like smiling at everyone in the street, even though I know you shouldn't do that in New York. It could lead to big trouble. That's chapter 14. And I find it to be very, very interesting what happened there because it's all of this, in some ways, flipping of roles between each other. Who's going to be the one? Who's going to be, who's going to address this? What is my daughter doing? Is she talking to her daughter about sex? I mean, the grandmother, and she must know her daughter because she's not telling her about it and giving the information to the granddaughter,
Mm.
which could cause a problem in and of itself. um and this just raises those a whole, it's almost like the grapevine, Phoebe, like if you're going through a grapevine, it comes out the other end a whole other
Right,
sentence.
right.
And so this whole, like, what is the right way, what's the best way? Of course there's guides that have been drawn up for parents to talk to their kids about sex, but how comfortable really are the parents before they even talk to their kids about sex?
Yeah, yeah,
So, good for Judy for just picking up the, baton
yeah,
and just, like, and putting it all out there.
yeah,
I bet she really got a lot of letters from parents too, saying thanks so much
yeah.
because we let them,
Mm.
read these books. And I just don't know what it's like to grow up in a family where there's violence surrounding sex and touch, or where there's, real negatives that can really affect how one experiences, intimacy for the first time. But obviously, I think a lot of it begins with what's your family structure, if you have one.
Right.
And I think in this book it really shows that there was a healthy, fairly healthy family structure in place, and yet it was still a hard thing for people to maneuver their way
Wow.
around.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go into chapter 15 here. As you can see, they're fairly quick reads, and this is an interesting chapter. Chapter 15. I got to the clinic at 2:45. I went inside and gave my name to the receptionist. There were 7 other people in my group session, including 2 young couples. First, we had a general discussion with a physician and a social worker. They explained all the methods of birth control. You could ask questions if you wanted. I didn't.
Mm.
Next came a private session called personal counseling, just me and a social worker. She was young and very pretty with long hair, tied back, and tinted glasses. Her name was Linda Colker. I wondered if she was sexually experienced and decided she must be, or else she wouldn't have the job. We talked about the weather and my family for a minute, and then she asked me my reason for coming to the clinic. I told her I think it's my responsibility to make sure I don't get pregnant. It's funny. She nodded and said, do you have one special boyfriend? Yes. Have you discussed this with him? Not really. How do you think he'll feel about it? I'm sure he'll be very happy. He approves of birth control. But coming here was all your idea? Yes, absolutely. Good. Some of the questions I have to ask you are rather personal, Catherine, so that we can determine what method of birth control will be best for you. Oh, I understand. Have you already had sexual intercourse? Yes. Have you been using a birth control device? Yes. Which one? A rubber, a condom, combined with foam or by itself? by itself and you find that method unacceptable? Well, it's hard for me to say because we just did it one time. Oh, I see. Now I nodded. But you plan to have intercourse regularly? Yes. About how often? How often? I repeated. Yes, how often do you plan to have intercourse? Well, I don't know exactly. Would you say weekends and holidays or every day or once a month or a few times a year? I guess on weekends mainly. Do you think you'll know in advance or will it be a spontaneous decision? I guess I'll know in advance. Okay, so much for that. I'll need a little medical history now. How old were you when you began to menstruate? Oh, about almost 14. And are your periods regular? Well, sort of. I get it every 4 or 5 weeks. And how long does each period last? About 5 days. Any bleeding in between periods? No. Vaginal discharge? Sometimes. Color just clear. Well, that's normal. Any severe cramping? No, just some back pain the first day. Nothing bad. Well, how about your mother? Is she in good health? Yeah, she's fine. Does she take birth control pills? And no, she uses a diaphragm. Quite a good method if it's used properly. I'd rather take the pill. Yes, it has aesthetic advantages, but it's not the answer for everyone. I guess I must have looked unhappy when she said that because she added, we'll see what the doctor has to say, okay? The whole idea of coming here is to find the birth control device which best suits the individual. I nodded again. Now then, I need your written consent from the gonorrhea culture. She hesitated for a moment, then added, oh, it's simple and painless. But I can't possibly have gonorrhea, I told her. There's always a possibility, and it's often difficult for a woman to tell. But Michael, besides, look, it only takes a few seconds. It's much safer to be sure. All right, I said and agreed. I signed my name. I tried not to think of Michael and that girl on the beach in Maine. Good, she said, standing up. She held her hand out and shook it, and I shook it. I'll see you after your physical, Catherine. Okay, I said, and thank you. My physical consisted of weight and blood pressure, a routine breast exam with the doctor explaining how I should check my breasts each month, then my first pelvic examination. I tried to act as if I was used to it, but I didn't fool the doctor who said, just try to relax, Catherine. This isn't going to hurt. And it didn't either, but it was uncomfortable for a minute. Then he pushed with one hand from inside and with the other from outside. Then he slipped the cold thing into my vagina and explained, this is a vaginal speculum. It holds the walls of the vagina open so that the inside is easily seen. Would you like to see your cervix? I don't know. I think it's a good idea to become familiar with your body. He held a mirror between my legs and looked down. He explained what I was seeing. It reminded me of the time when Erica taught me how to use tampons. I had to hold a mirror between my legs then, too, to find the right hole. That's interesting, I told the doctor. Yes, the human body never ceases to amaze me. He took the mirror away and I laid back on the table. I'm almost done here, Catherine, just a pap smear there, passing a long Q-tip type thing to his assistant. And the gonorrhea culture, okay, that does it. He took off his gloves. Now, do you have any preference concerning birth control devices? Yes, I told him I'd like to try the pill. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't. You're an excellent help. Get dressed now, and Miss Colker will see you back in her office. How did it go? She asked. Oh, it was nothing, I told her. Here's your prescription. She passed it across the desk, then gave me a 2-month supply of pills with instructions, making sure I understood every detail. We also discussed possible side effects, in which case I'm to call the clinic immediately. I took a taxi to Penn Station and caught the 5:17 train. I couldn't wait to tell Michael my news. But then when I got home, my mother said, Michael called. He's got the flu. Yeah, bummer having to wait another day.
This is such a picture of such a healthy thing. I can't even imagine. I
Right?
My family, there was some violence. My dad and we nobody discussed. My mother actually did explain how people had sex. I do remember that.
Oh boy. Pretty
But
memorable.
yeah, gee, I mean, I just so many people would be so disgusted with the fact that a girl, a child, or a boy wanted to know about his body and not outside the family structure, who everything has to come from the family structure. You're not allowed to learn anything that they don't want you to learn. That's not in some sacred book that you're supposed to live your life by. Uh,
Right.
yeah.
Oh, I know. When I got my, I never forget. I was sitting on the staircase, and my mom came through the room, and I looked up at her and I said, "Oh, I got my period." And she walked away. I thought, "Oh my God, she's not going to say anything." And
Uh,
she came back and she said, "You know, now you can get pregnant." And that was it.
itch.
That was it.
Well, did you know?
I,
You know?
Well, at that point, yes, I did know, because thank God for the Mary Pats in women's lives. My cousin, my always getting into trouble cousin. She saved my butt.
Yeah.
She just would blurt out things and say things and even try to get me to do things that
Oh,
I knew I wasn't ready for,
oh,
but
yeah.
she really, really exposed me better, because what I would have done then, Phoebe, is I would have gone to Mary Pat and said, "You know what my mom said," or I would have told her. So it's interesting how that one person that you might confide in at that age, you really, really trust them. And there's a lot of trust there required. And I think that's some of the
Lucky,
problems
lucky
with
you.
how the moral
Yeah,
code has overridden this
yeah,
kind of like thinking that we should be doing about things. It's this instantaneous, like, we're not going to talk about that, and this is the way this is going to go, and this is the way it's going to be.
right.
And
But
you know,
you grew up, I grew up in another world, another parallel world.
yeah,
Everybody now is on the internet. I don't know. You can get anything, any information, and a lot of horror, misinformation, and there's so
yes,
much pornography on the internet. I don't know because
right,
I don't see it, but it
right,
just must be tons of it. And all these X is just full of misogynists. Most of the guys
yeah,
on there are misogynistic. They're all followers of, Musk, and they're just
yeah.
really horrible people.
Yep,
Uh,
yep. And
and
so, yeah, so when the information is available, like we're saying now, to like young people, how the hell do you discern? How
yeah,
does a young mind work
yeah,
its way through all of that to
right.
get to what really would be safe and work for them, and their level of comfort and
Yeah,
vulnerability and
yeah,
fragility and doubt. I mean, look at all of those really hard words, you know? And
yeah,
so thank goodness for the writers that, like, Allen Ginsberg, you name it, some of the names of the people, Margaret Atwood, all these
yeah,
people who really step forward, you know, bravery really is the word for it. Like, you're just brave enough to say, I'm going to write this the way I want to write it, and the cards will fall where they may.
right.
Now, Judy said she had editors that protected her, that stood by
Right,
her. You
right.
know, I have a feeling that those editors are far and few
Oh,
between
yeah.
these days.
Yeah,
They
look
do
what happened to the
not.
Washington Post because Bezos used to be, standoff. The minute Trump was going to be reelected, he changes and look at CBS, and we don't have too many more morals anymore. Brave
Yeah,
people against Joe McCarthy. Uh, you know,
yeah,
it, they're all afraid of losing money. It's
Well,
all,
that's it, right? The
that's it.
bottom line. It
All it is.
ends up being, what's going to threaten the bottom line.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
obviously, so I mean, self-publication, go
Yeah.
for it. I mean, there's things that, look to your smaller, more, radical independent presses that
Yeah.
take the chances and are willing to take the chances. But the censorship, I can't imagine somebody who, it blows my mind when I hear or even see people putting their hands up to a kid's eyes when there's like a naked statue or a naked photo or a naked picture on the wall,
America's full of prudes. You just have to go to Europe. That's what I
people
first
that
saw.
are that prudish.
Huh?
And
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
I
it's
guess I mean we're making judgments a lot about a lot of people because we would prefer children to be able to see reality and make a lot of choices without their parents always in the way of
yeah.
their
And
freedom.
I worked with teens, and I was a group home parent as a volunteer in Montana for a
Wow.
year. And, I was not that far out of their age. They were 12 to 18, and there I was, like 22 and a half. And
Mhm.
here I am acting like I'm a stand-in type of parent. And the reality was that a lot of these kids came from really messed up
Oh
situations.
yeah.
And so the experience of that made me realize, wow, like I have an opportunity here to influence and to actually share my experience with a young person in the hopes that that may inspire them to want to be more informed. It may,
Right.
we all have to find resources outside of our parents at one point or another. And in many ways, that's where I'm really glad there is a lot of information out there and some really good people who do disseminate it. But it, having read this book, I think a lot of what it made me think more than anything was, what's love? What's erotic? What's pornographic? Where are these fine lines? How do they get defined? And then how do they also get blown out of proportion?
Right.
And it's just so subjective,
We have the
Um,
courts that decided what is pornography and what isn't, and
yeah.
well, thank God the court. The last thing about I'm putting up is that one decision that was against parents in a school district telling other parents that this is the Supreme Court like in the 80s, saying you cannot decide for other parents what is their kids can read, and
Yeah.
that was an
Yeah.
important decision. But
Yep. Yep.
well, this has been fun.
It's been
The
fantastic.
passionate, informative, wonderful Zan. Boy, you're wonderful.
Thank you, Phoebe, and you as well. I'm so glad we've remained friends all these years.
Long
Thank you
time.
for inviting
At
me.
Sky Poetry Theater and other
It
fun
was
places.
Red Sky.
Yeah, Red
We
Sky.
made it.
Yeah.
Raven, yeah, the beginning of Raven Chronicles.
Oh
I
gosh,
mean, we're
long time.
talking, we're talking that this is history now. We're
Yeah.
we're part of history, and uh, and all the beautiful people that are part of that. Well, my smarts were very informed by my years in Seattle. I felt like I really learned a lot, grew a lot, experienced a lot in my 20s, which would have been the next threshold of
Right.
the people, the audience
Yeah.
that this book is written for. And you're young then too, even in
Right.
your early 20s. We were really young then, and you just stumble through your choices. So
Right.
we are the sum of our choices, and we just have to be accountable and live with those, how they come out, the way it comes out. So
Love
be
you and
careful out there.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye,
Bye.
PV.